What's up, everybody? LSU Odyssey live here, late night edition. We really wanted to keep this very specific, this show, and really focused on the news that broke yesterday evening concerning Trey Holly. LSU running back Trey Holly, for the last 2 years, had a really strong freshman year, 2023, but like 100-something yards, had like a 60-yard touchdown run against Army, which showed what he can do. But mostly he was, in an expected freshman role. The offseason in 2024 is when everything changed. Trey Holly had charges of attempted murder and gun charges, all this stuff against him. Deep felonies, allegations involving a double shooting in his hometown of Farmerville back in 2024. Immediately, while many were rushing to judgment and this is what happens in Farmerville, he shouldn't have gone home, his brother had stuff like this happen, all sorts of stuff like that thrown around. You had Trey Holly come out and say, "Listen, I am innocent. This is not me. It's not me. My name will come out, my name will be cleared, all that stuff. The truth will come out, and it will, when I tell my story, one day I'll tell my story and it will be legendary," is what he posted. And he turned himself in, was arrested. He cooperated fully. And then what's very interesting is he goes before a grand jury with attempted murder charges, and the attempted murder charges are thrown out by a grand jury. So what are we trying him for then? What are we saying he did? Because if he was there and had some type of participation with the guns, right? Correct? If that's the case, well then surely Trey Holly would have also been, charged and most likely convicted of the shooting, of the attempted murder, correct? Or he would have been some type of conspiracy party to the shootings, correct? No, we're just charging him as part of this shooting for absolutely what reason? Who knows? Who knows anymore? Because this case has gone on forever. The whole right to a speedy trial out the window. This young man has had a year of his life just dust in the wind now, just gone. And it's not out of completely, up to his control, up to what he did. This is 100% on the absolute awful Louisiana justice system. I mean, this is unlike anything I've ever seen. You literally have the case. I mean, it sucks that the first judge that he was to go before was J.R. Belton, LSU recruiting coordinator. J.R. Belton, awesome dude. His father was the judge originally, so of course he had to recuse himself. And that threw the case into just complete legal hell. And LSU's policy is, we're not, if you have legal stuff going on and it's that type of legal stuff, big felonies, all this stuff, it has to be resolved before you can play. I'm not saying that's right, that's wrong, but we know Trey Holly's innocent. Brian Kelly has spoken of his innocence and has spoken out his support, his full support behind Trey Holly. I wonder if Brian Kelly could have bent the rules a bit here for this young man and said, hey, you know what? We know this young man will be cleared. Let's let him back onto the team. But that was never going to happen. This case has been stalled for the last 6-7 months just this year, simply because the Farmerville courthouse needs a new air conditioning. Yeah, you heard me right. This young man's case is literally stalled because of air conditioning. So what's Trey Holly going to do? What's he supposed to do? Sit out another full year of college football? You could say, yeah, he'll have his eligibility left, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. This kid is wasting time just having to sit there and wait. And if LSU isn't going to take a chance on letting him play, he's got to go somewhere that is. And that somewhere is Southern University, right across the street, right in the same town, Baton Rouge. And Brandon Fairbairn was the person who broke this news with the photo of Trey Holly. He's at practice for Southern. And it shocked a lot of people. I'm not going to say if it shocked me or not. I'm kind of been told to stay away from breaking news as much as I would like to keep on doing that. Either way, Trey finally seen. Brandon Fairbairn takes the photo. It makes the rounds, and everyone realizes Trey Holly's he's not even on an LSU roster anymore. He is at Southern. And I haven't really seen any negative reactions. I've only seen support for the young man, which hopefully that continues. I don't know why you would criticize this decision. This isn't LSU's fault. This isn't Trey Holly's fault. This isn't Trey Holly put himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, whatever. I think that this is a very cruel situation where just the worst of all things has happened for Trey in the shooting, and then the legal process, and then with LSU. And none of it worked in any way, shape, or form to help this young man get past this barrier, clear his name, and get back on the football field where he belongs. And that is something that really pisses me off. Why is the justice system in Louisiana so hell-bent on throwing people away? Like, guilty before innocent. Why is Louisiana, the justice system, so obsessed with packing their jails? It makes a lot of money, that's why. It makes a lot of money. And Trey Holly was really looking at some horrible odds until that grand jury dismissed those attempted murder charges. But once that happened, and once word got out about witnesses either lying or pointing at Trey Holly incorrectly, whatever it is, it's quite obvious these witnesses had him completely wrong, identified him completely inaccurately, incorrectly, threw his name in a whirlpool of hell. And it's very obvious if you have gun charges, like, okay, I am arrested, for example, for shooting somebody myself, okay? Just for example. And they come and they arrest me, and they're like, Lon Phillips Sullivan, you're arrested for shooting these two people. And I'm like, oh, wow. When did this happen? The other night. Where's the guns that you got? We don't have any. We don't have the guns that you shot. We don't have any information about that. But these two people said you did it. So you have no guns to connect me to the crime, but yet you're pursuing me on the crime. And then say the attempted murder gets thrown away. Okay. But now why am I still on trial for these gun charges? That is exactly what Trey Holly is facing. It doesn't make any sense here why he is still in this legal quagmire. It makes no sense, and it makes even less sense why the legal system are just dragging their heels for over a year with this kid. Like, what's the deal? What like, let's settle this. You know, Trey Holly wants his day in court. He's not hiding away from nothing. And instead, he's been made to wait and wait and wait. And you saw his post where he was talking about, it was after Kyron Lacey had taken his own life. Rest in peace. Long live K2. And Trey Holly was saying, I felt just like Kyron in those times where I was alone. I was all by myself. Many had ascribed guilt already to his name because he wasn't playing football anymore. He was you got to understand, when you're a part of something that is you're a part of that action. You're a part of that status. You're given that status. You're looked up to by all these people. You're thought of as going to be that next star at LSU. Your time is just around the corner. And then that's all taken from you. That's really hard to take. Especially for someone as young as Trey Holly is, and the way he has handled it. Man, a guilty person does not handle this the way Trey Holly has handled this. A guilty person hides, a guilty person ducks. Hell, a guilty person is probably not even trying to play football right now. Trey Holly is innocent. I believe that from the beginning. From the very get-go, I believe that Trey Holly was innocent. I just don't understand for the life of me how an air conditioning unit could hold this up. There's no legal recourse where he could apply for a change of venue, nothing like that. It boggles the mind. And when Brian Kelly was asked about this, and it was supposed to be settled like last year around this time, and then you heard nothing, and then it kept being pushed off, and then Brian Kelly said right before the season that Trey wouldn't be there on the team for the year. And then you heard okay, it's going to happen in February. His trial's going to happen in February. And then, his trial's going to happen in May. And then his trial's going to happen. It just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and postponed and postponed. And then you do some digging. And it comes out that it is all because of an air conditioning unit. What is this, 1954? Like the Apple Dumpling Gang? What are we doing here? I remember when Trey Holly was first arrested and all of that, and I'm calling the Farmerville police station to try and get information on what's happening. And what really boggled my mind was how freely the Farmerville people at that police station just threw information at me. They just were open about everything. Nothing was off the record. Like I could ask them anything. They were giving me every piece of information. A lot of it we kept out of the public because it seemed almost like they were trying to use me to put out some things that made it seem like Trey was already guilty. The information they gave me, I cross-referenced with other folks, not just Trey and his legal team or any of that, but like independent folks. And when they were there, this is so obvious he was misidentified or was misidentified on purpose. This kid, this kid's gonna get his name cleared, but it is really unbelievable how long it has taken. It is truly staggering. And this is a tweet we posted today that has seemed to get a lot of people in agreement. When we took that photo, it had 11,000 something views, a lot of likes, a lot of retweets. People were really in agreement and just saying this is just really a tragedy, a miscarriage of the actual justice system. Like, innocent until proven guilty, throw that out the window. And not only that, right to a speedy trial, throw that out the window. Oh, you're going to miss a year of college football where your team might be contending for a championship this year? One of the best chances, one of the best rosters they've had, certainly since you've been there, Trey. Too bad. Sit out another year. What's the kid supposed to do? I'm glad he made this decision. I think it's the best decision for him to get out there with some people. Get out of the house. Stay involved. But not only that, we always knew that he was working out and trying to stay in shape for this moment. But he's got a lot of friends on that Southern Jags team. He's got a lot of people there who are going to support him and take care of him. And I just cannot wait for him to show what he can do. Because that's the thing that's lost in all of this. Trey is an amazing young man. And you've heard Brian Kelly say that from day one about Trey. And that's why I think Brian Kelly deserves a lot of credit here because, yes, you could say, Brian Kelly, you should have let him on the team. And it's like, I get why Brian Kelly didn't. That is a policy that has been there for a long time. It's predates Brian Kelly. Of, hefty legal proceedings keep you off the field. That's been broken a few times, of course. I can name a few different cases where that thing was broken, except for there's some obvious ones where it wasn't. Ed Ingram sat out a year while his case, his sexual assault allegations from two young women were against him in Texas, and it took a full season for that to be dealt with. And luckily, he made it back just in time for the 2019 season. There's other cases like that, but 99.9% of the time at LSU, if you are involved in any felony type charges, you're just not going to see the field until it's settled. And so Brian Kelly is not to blame here. In fact, Brian Kelly deserves a ton of credit for coming out publicly when he did not have to and proclaiming his support and full backing of Trey when it was really at a time when a lot of people thought Trey was guilty. And a lot of people were saying as much online and kind of throwing this kid away and saying, hey, you know what? He's guilty. His brother was involved in a shooting. He's from Farmerville, blah, 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 blah. And just basically saying, this is what happened. We already know. every time you go into something like that, it bites you in the ass. And the truth finally comes out. It's never quite what you thought. I have a feeling Trey Holly is not only innocent here, I have a feeling that there is a large lawsuit that is very possible for him against the Farmerville County justice system. Knowing Trey, though, he won't even pursue a lawsuit. Once this is probably, his name is cleared, he is just going to move on. That's just the type of person he is. And that's why this happening to him is so angering and egregious, because this young man did not deserve this. Hopefully, he can ball out at Southern, really send a message at Southern, and whether it's at LSU or somewhere else, I am really pulling for this kid to take it to that next level and go somewhere where he can play on the biggest stage, whether that's LSU, whether it's somewhere else. This kid deserves that. Free Trey Holly, everybody. Free Trey Holly. And, he's already free. He's mentally free. He's spiritually free. He knows he's innocent. I've spoken with Trey. I believe his innocence 100%. And I do not believe in go with 100% and just 100% all in. This is one of those cases. This young man did not do that. He did not shoot a gun at anybody. He did not attempt murder. We already know that those charges have been thrown out. So what the hell are we doing here? Do you think Trey Holly just said, "Hey, here, have some guns, guys," and then see ya? Here, guys, have some guns. Goodbye. I'll never know what happened. See ya. Is that the case? They want us to believe that Trey just walked up to some people involved in the attempted murder shooting and just said, "Here's some guns"? Because that's basically what they're charging him with here. It is absolutely just ridiculous. I hope Trey can find his way out of this, and I'm willing to use my platform in any way possible to help make that happen. You got to speak up. You got to speak out. This isn't right. What's happening to him? And I think that's where we'll leave it. I think that's probably the most that I should say. That's the most information I should put out there. That's the most that I should say right now. We have a few things in the works concerning this that I think you're going to be very interested to look into and to watch when it comes out. And we're very excited about doing this and being part of this and being invited to do this. So keep your eyes out for that. Free Trey Holly, everybody. I hope he has a hell of a year at Southern. And man, I'd love to see him get back in the portal and come back to LSU next year. Any thoughts, anybody, on Trey Holly and what he's going through? This is a really just a strange situation. An air conditioner holding up a trial. It boggles the mind. This is against multiple constitutional rights of Trey's. It's just the Louisiana justice system has to do better, must do better. And if we don't hold their feet to the fire, they're not going to do better. They're going to keep feeding the coffers with all the money, the fines that they take from people, the just complete racket that they are. Trey's rights were wronged. Trey's rights were trampled on. And I can't wait for him to have his day in court where he can clear his name.